Hey everyone, what's going on? This is your host of the Scores Podcast, Eric Devendorf. Today we have a great guest on hand, SU women's point guard Tiana Mangakahia. But before we get to the interview, I want to do a quick recap with my producer Tim about the first men's basketball game versus Bryant, the 85-84 victory. Showed that we still have a lot of offensive firepower, but we have a long way to go on the defensive end of the ball.
Got a little tight there at the end. I thought, Bryant looked a little bit better than I think many people expected. And I think we all just sort of took for granted how the practice time of not playing for 10, 14 days can kind of have a big impact.
Yeah, I don't care what anyone says, to be able to, not be able to practice for 14 days straight, not only affects your conditioning, but, it affects your chemistry on the court together. Just going through the plays and practice leading up to that game, knowing the scout out there on the floor. It's not the same as doing it over Zoom or, doing it through FaceTime. So I think those 14 days of quarantine definitely had an effect, like I said, on the chemistry, but also the condition as well. But, the Orange showed they showed what they can do on the offensive end. Buddy had 23 points, and they had multiple guys in double figure scoring. But we know they could do that. What we need to see is, what we lacked last year was a defensive presence. And that's activity in the zone, communication in the zone, and being there in the shooters. And are we going to blame the quarantine? We can a little bit, but I think overall guys have gotten better. They should have gotten better as far as knowing the zone and knowing where to be and knowing where to move. And, we didn't see that as much as we wanted to see that this first game going in. So we have a lot of improvement to do. If we really want to be a good team, we have a lot of improvement to do on the defensive side of the ball.
The good news is I thought the new guys looked like really good. You get Griffin, he has 14 points, 12 rebounds. He was active from the jump, kind of as advertised. And maybe Richmond should have played a little bit more in the second half especially, but I did like that Boeheim sort of rode with Girard there and showed like having some confidence in him despite him having an off night, which honestly, it's probably just what it was. Like we know Girard's better than that, and the good news is they still won despite him being 0 for his first 11.
Love Griffin, love his activity, and he's going to shoot better. He's a shooter. He can knock down those threes, and he didn't have a great shooting night. And Kadari, he's going to be a great player. He's a young freshman. He still has to earn his stripes. He showed early on his potential and what he's going to be able to do going forward. And as far as Joe, I like Coach keeping him in. It's the first game of the year, and let's factor in everything that's been happening. The quarantine, multiple days missed practice, and obviously it affects guys. And Joe, it was just an off night for Joe. But I think at the beginning of the year, the first game of the year, we're not getting blown out. It's Bryant. Coach is rocking with him because Joe has proved that he can hit big shots and, that he can fight through games when he's missing shots and he's off. And, Coach took a risk and his decision paid off. Joe hit, I think, one or two huge shots at the end to kind of, seal the deal for us. So, and I think early on, if, as a coach, if you take your star point guard or your starting point guard out of the game, it takes confidence away from him. But so for him to be able to, stick it out and play through it, and coach showing him that, it really gave him more confidence to hit that big shot. Who knows if he would have took him out quick and then put him back in, maybe, he wouldn't have hit that shot. So I like the decision that coach made. And like I said, Kadari is going to play a lot. He's going to get his minutes. But I think for the team, overall for the team and the chemistry and just for the camaraderie, I think you keep Joe in there just to show him that you're confident and hey, you're my guy going forward. You had a great freshman season, and all the factors with the quarantine and things like that, it could have had an effect. So I'm gonna rock with you, and it worked out, man. He hit some big shots, so I like it, man. I like what Coach Boeheim did.
It's also like if they're going to reach their ceiling this year, it's going to be with Joe Girard playing good and playing the way he played last year. So you kind of need him for them to maximize their talent. I think the one thing that's being overshadowed is the Barama injury. It was kind of a weird game where you had Boeheim in the presser afterwards making waves, and then you had the Bryant coach sort of react. And there was a lot to digest for a first game. And we like forgot the Barama, or at least it seems like no one was talking about Barama after the game. And now we find out it's a torn meniscus. He's probably out at least 4 weeks. And I love Dolezaj at the 4, but I do think when you go up against like Power 5 teams, he's just a little too skinny of a 5 right now.
And I talked about that on the pregame at ESPN Syracuse, that Marek is best at the 4 spot. It just gives him more opportunities to roam around, get those loose rebounds and push it out in transition. And not that he's not good at the 5. He's good at the 5, but I think it just puts him in more foul trouble, and we need him out on the court. Hopefully these younger guys can step up and just show they can, together come in, 20, 25 minutes between the 2 or 3 of these guys and really relieve Marek and let him be in his most comfortable position, which is at the 4. And like you said, people should have been talking about that injury to Barama more than they have, because it's significant. He was just starting to get a role and get a real feel for that center position. And, he's a senior leader, he's a leader. So he's been around and he knows where to be on the court. But we really need those young guys to step up, even though coach says that, Marek is going to be at that 5. I think if those young guys can really, show what they can do. Obviously, it's tough because you want to show what you can do in practice. And right now, practice is off and on. You know what I mean? So it's even harder for those guys really to, have coach have that confidence in them. You know what I mean? Without having those practices. So, but hopefully we can get those guys engaged and get them helping out, because it will put a lot of pressure on Marek going forward if they don't step up.
Yeah, it's just such a bummer. I heard Griff talking on ESPN Syracuse yesterday, and he was saying, like, Barama is just starting to get in his groove. At the end of last year, you could tell he was finally, getting over that plateau and starting to be a big contributor and become that player that they were hoping to be. So hopefully they get him back soon, because I really think once you get into ACC play, it might not show against some of these other teams, and maybe it will against Rutgers. That's going to be a big game coming up. But ACC, you're talking UNC, Duke, Virginia, like Florida State, all these front courts that have length, have athleticism. They're going to out-rebound us if we don't have Barama down there.
And look, I mean, these younger centers, Jesse and Frank, they're talented guys. But, let's not get mistaken. They're no superstars right now. You know what I mean? So it's not like it's not like a freshman sensation where we can just throw them out there to the Wolves against the ACC and the big teams in the ACC. We need Barama. We need his experience. He's been through it. He's been in the tournament. He's played against, high level teams in the tournament, Sweet 16, Michigan State, in all those tourney runs. So it's definitely a blow to have him go down, not only his presence, but just his experience in leadership, having been through it, so hopefully he can, be vocal on the bench and kind of guide those young guys through and kind of give them pointers as the season goes forward, because even though he's not out there, we're going to need his vocal leadership to help these young guys going forward. And then, with Marek, again, we know he's going to do his best. He's going to do whatever the team needs. But he's most effective, I think, not only for himself, but for the whole team. When he can kind of play that wing position down low, roam around, get steals, come from the backside, poke it out, and then he can leak out. And once he gets it, he's making plays. He's a point forward. So, when you have a guy like that in the middle, it kind of limits him to what he could really do, especially having all those big bodies, kind of hammering them down and keeping them in that area. And then obviously the foul trouble. So hopefully those young guys can step it up, man.
Yeah, I'm excited about Griffin. I thought that dunk was so sick at the end of the game. And I know, like, you were there for the Johnny Flynn rack dunk. Like, that immediately, to me, was one of the biggest Syracuse dunks in recent history. Also, it was just one of those moments where you're like, gosh, I wish there were fans in the Dome for that play right there. Because it was 2 minutes left. I think Buddy even said that after the game, that it would have been a cool moment for the fans. And that's where you see the Dome explode. But that showed his full athleticism. I'm really excited about Griffin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and Joe threw it from half court, He threw it from half court and it looked like it was going nowhere, and then he came out of nowhere and got it from the side and then dunked it right in the front, So his athleticism
started. I was like, oh no, like just take care of it. Like it's a big moment in the game. But then when he did it, I was like, nah, like that was pretty sweet. Like now you're on SportsCenter top 10. So it was
he's the type of guy who, makes you miss Elijah less. You know what I mean? He's a guy that he's not going to score like Elijah, but he can have those 20-point games. But also he can have those games where he has 12 to 14 rebounds. We saw him, have a double-double, and he didn't shoot the ball well. I think he was maybe 4 for 13 or something like that. But his activity was the difference. You know what I mean? And he's a guy who could, with those plays right there, change the whole game. Just the whole momentum could change with one play like that. And you need those type of guys who are willing to do everything, guys who are willing to dive on the floor and get all those loose balls, and especially from the guard position, right? He's 6'5", and you really could mess with him a little bit. You can move him up, you can put him back down. He could, and I think that might help. We got to mess with the lineups a little bit now. It could help putting him up at the top of the zone, because what did we really struggle with in this game? Keeping guys in front of us. You know what I mean? Whether it was we weren't getting back in transition, and I know they were pressing the first half a little bit. Didn't look really good. Obviously, the guys looked gassed. They weren't getting back. But even when we were in the half court, they were just blowing by guys. And I think, having Griffin up top there, sometimes he's athletic. He can move and he can keep guys in front of him, but again, then you're missing that presence down low rebounding, right? But so he's just going to have to be able to mix it up. I think we could have him on the top and bottom, and he'll be able to rebound out of both spots, but he could definitely add some depth up top, defensively as well.
Yeah, his rebounding will be big going forward, because Sidibe out now. If he can keep giving you 8-10 rebounds, that'll be huge for sure.
Okay, looking forward to SU's second men's game this Thursday against Niagara. We'll be doing a recap of each game on the intro of the podcast. Now let's get into our interview with Tiana. Okay, we're going to hop right into it. We'll start with you growing up in Australia. So you're born in Meadowbrook, Queensland, right?
Yeah.
And that's in what? So Queensland is the state, and then Meadowbrook is the city, and then Australia would be the country.
Well, Brisbane is the city.
Brisbane is the city.
And Meadowbrook is like a suburb in the city.
Okay, cool. All right. So talk to me about growing up a little bit. What, who and what inspired you to start playing basketball, and how was that growing up in Australia?
Yeah, so it was pretty much just because my brothers, really, I have 5 brothers, 4 older. They were all into the sport. I think my oldest brother, his best friend started playing basketball, and then he was like, to my parents, I want to play. So then my parents pretty much just put us all in the same sport, because it was easy for traveling and driving. They didn't want to be so many places, So that's really how I got involved. But yeah, growing up, we were always outside. It's weird now, kids are never outside. I feel like they're always inside. But yeah, literally. So for us, we were always outside playing cricket or basketball, really just always outside, just playing different sports.
So people don't know too much about cricket over here, but I had the pleasure of living in New Zealand and Australia for a couple different occasions. So I was introduced to not only cricket, but footy, and I think it's called footy, and then rugby as well.
Yeah. So the state I live in, we're more like rugby.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like rugby union, rugby league.
Yeah.
No, I got into it a little bit. So what was the competition like growing up playing? I mean, I know now basketball in Australia has really evolved into a whole nother level. It's probably one of the best countries outside of the United States for sure. So what was the competition for you growing up?
Yeah, I feel like it was really tough. We have really good players. It's all kind of club. It's not, we have basketball in school, but it's kind of for fun. It's not as competitive. But so during club basketball, that's where it was really competitive. I was I pretty much made every team that I tried out for growing up. When I was bottom age, I would make it, but I didn't play much. Obviously the older girls would play, but I wasn't, for my age group, I would say I was the second best. There was always one girl who was better than me. And then there was a couple of us that were kind of on the same level.
Yeah.
But so I feel like it was real competitive. And then I went down to the AIS in Canberra, and it was really competitive there. I don't know. I wouldn't say I was the best in the country for my position.
Yeah.
There are a lot of really good players.
So for people who don't know, outside of the states, Europe, Australia, it's not a lot of high school basketball. It's more, like you said, club teams. So really, you growing up younger, you experienced and playing against older people right
Yeah.
away. You know what I mean? I know you played for Townsville, I think, professionally over there. So before you even came over to the States. So talk about that experience playing pro, before you even went and played college. How was that?
Yeah, I would say it was kind of difficult to adjust to the professional lifestyle. I was 18, so I was really young. I had a lot of older players that, they were in their like last 2 seasons of playing professionally, like vets, so I had a lot to learn from. The reason why I actually decided to come to America was because the opportunity arose. I actually was never planning. Even growing up, I was always like, I'm just going to go straight pro and just try to go that route.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then junior college coach emailed me, and everyone that I spoke to was like, oh my gosh, you have to go to college. Like, you have to have that experience. Like, it's so fun. You'll love it. And I'm like, dude, like, I don't know if I like school that much. Like, so it was, but then after a while, everyone was kind of like influencing me. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a go. And, if I didn't like it, I knew I could come back home and play, like, not in the WNBL, but like the C-ball, which is like the lower league.
Yeah.
I knew that I could go back home and play in that league. So I took that chance.
No, you could always go back and get that money, but you got to go ahead and experience that opportunity coming over here and playing. Now, talk about that transition coming over here. I know you went to junior college in Kansas. I believe you didn't play. You just for some eligibility stuff. But
Yeah.
talk about the transition coming over here. How that kind of happened. You said you just kind of touched on a little bit about the email, but how did that opportunity really come about for you coming over to the States, and what was that transition like for you?
Yeah, so growing up, I played with a girl, Kalani Purcell, and she went to junior college in Kansas, and she told the coaches there about me. And then that's when they emailed me and like called me and were like, come, you play, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay. So I ended up going. And then after like the summer, because I had gotten there early, after the summer, they were like, oh, you're not going to be able to play because the NJCAA, they pretty much, I don't know, they just wouldn't allow me. Like, they didn't rule me ineligible, but they didn't rule me eligible. It was just, so I was like, well, I don't know what to do. And they were like, well, you can stay here. And they told me that they will get me to a Division I school, and that my junior college coaches pretty much said that I'm a Division I athlete and that they'll help me no matter what if I stay. So then they said that my second year, they said, oh, you should be able to play. So then after the first year, the second year came and I still wasn't able to play. And they were like, but they also said before that they're like, if you want to go home, like, we'll fly you home. Like, they gave me all the options,
Right.
So then the second year came and they were like, yeah, like, you can't play again, but like, you're going to go Division I, like, we'll help you so much. Like, we have connections, but like all that. So then I was like, okay. And I just stayed and I practiced every day. And I was like the scout. I was like the best player on the other team. Like, so if the other team was like left-handed, like I had to be left-handed in practice. So, I mean, it was cool. Like, I loved my JUCO and my coaches so much.
So talk about how you got to Cuse, and talk about your recruitment a little bit. I mean, obviously it was different for you because you weren't playing, you were sitting out. So how did schools see you, and what were your other top schools besides Syracuse?
So I guess like the coaches at my junior college had like connections to the person who like ranks junior college players.
Okay.
And that I think it was Dan Olson. He had ranked me like the #1 player in junior college, point guard.
With not even playing.
Yeah, because he had that much trust. He had that much trust in them. And like, I played in like scrimmages. So I played in like 5 scrimmages throughout the whole junior college. And then he saw me, I think he might have seen me at one of those scrimmages, but yeah, he just trusted them so much, you know, it's like, so he put me at the top, and then I had pretty much a lot of schools. Like I had Southern California, USC, Virginia Tech, Nebraska, Oklahoma State was one of my final ones with Syracuse. NC State called me. I was actually supposed to go on, I only went on 3 visits. And after Cuse, I was like, okay, I know I'm coming here. But Coach had me.
Why though? Why would you, what happened that made you like, all right, this is where I need to be?
I think it was the relationship that I had with the assistant coach that was here, Coach Amadou. He's at Rhode Island now. But he called me pretty much every day. And like, we would just talk about anything really. Like, and I feel like because of that bond that we created, like it helped when I got here. And then I met Coach Tammy, and she was just super cool. I felt like I could be myself around her. Coach Q, he was cool too. Like we went out for dinner, we spoke, and he didn't tell me like, oh, you're gonna play this many minutes, you're gonna do this. Like he just pretty much said like, you're gonna have to work for it. Yeah. And I liked that because, I mean, I kind of had to because they hadn't seen me play. So I understand why he wouldn't be like just saying anything. So yeah, that's really why, because of my relationship with the coaches and the bond that I had created before coming on my visit.
So you get to Cuse, I think 2017 it is. Mm-hmm. And you come in right away, freshman year, have an impact right away. Sophomore year, your first 2 years, you scored over 1,000 points. Mm-hmm. I think your sophomore year, you averaged almost 18, 9, and 7. It was some real good numbers. Mm-hmm. How did that, you coming in, not playing in JUCO, not having any college basketball playing experience, what type of confidence did you have in yourself to be able to come in right away and have that impact, on the basketball program?
Yeah, it's actually crazy because, like, I remember literally my first game playing for Syracuse, and I had, like, 5 points or 6 points and, like, 10 assists or something, like, because growing up, I was always a passer. And so I don't feel like my confidence when it came to scoring, it wasn't very high. Like, I was always a passer. I didn't score much growing up. And so Coach Q brought that side out of me, and which helped me, my game so much. And I think him having that confidence in me made me feel confident in myself.
Yeah.
Like him pushing me and telling me, you score the ball, like you're open, go yourself, take it yourself. Like, because I could always pass. So him just bringing that side of my game out really helped my confidence.
So I was just going to talk about Coach Q. He's the winning coach in SU women's basketball history. My first year when I got to Syracuse, that was his first year. So I knew Coach Q from the rip. And he's that type of guy. He's a go-getter, and he's going to keep it real. I think you were kind of already talked about a little bit, but what impact has he had on you, since coming to Syracuse? And give me your best Coach Q story.
The impact that he's had on me has been amazing, and coming to Syracuse was the best decision that I've made in my life. My best story of him is actually funny because he met my dad like probably three years ago. My first year, he met my dad. So when my dad came last year when I was sick, it was the second time he ever met my dad. Mm-hmm. And my dad's like super goofy. And Coach Q went to shake my dad's hand, and my dad's watch had gotten caught in his pocket. He couldn't get his hand out of his pocket, and it was just like really awkward, and it was really funny. I don't know. If you knew my dad, it would just be super funny. But yeah, that's probably, I don't know, Coach Q's funny, like, I feel like he's funny and very compassionate. So
Yeah, I think, and two, it's big when you know a coach cares about you, other than basketball, right? Like
yeah.
you said, in the beginning when they're recruiting you with Tammy and Agni just calling you and talking, it wasn't even about basketball. And then coming here with Coach Q and having that type of relationship, knowing that he cares about you and just your well-being.
Yeah.
I know my first time, I don't know what year it was, but my first time meeting you, I think it was, we were playing pickup. We were playing pickup, and I just remember, and we used to play pickup all the time. We used to, because when I was on staff, either it was for lunchtime with the managers, and then, you had a couple of girls from the team come and play. But I remember when I seen you play, I'm like, man, this girl can play. She can go. You know what I mean? And then obviously, as I got to know you more, an unbelievable person besides basketball. But so we'll talk about coming off your All-American season 2019. Like we said, you averaged 18, 9, 7. And then in that summer, you qualified for the Australian national team. I believe you made it.
Yeah.
Right?
So right after, wait, or was it the year before? No, I think it was right after. Yeah, right after that season, my second season, I had got invited to the Opals camp, the Australian national team camp.
Yeah.
And that was in April. And I actually did really good. I was nervous, because like that was my first opportunity to go to a camp. So, and then that was April. And then that was in June was when I was diagnosed.
Yeah, so talk about that a little bit. You find out you get diagnosed with breast cancer, and I think it was June in 2019. What was your emotions, your feelings? Obviously, I know a little bit of what you're feeling, but just take me through that moment.
So, leading up to finding out, I kind of knew that something was off by the way my test results were going, like the way the doctors were acting towards me in my ultrasound, and I kind of knew that something was off. And actually, like the Sunday, I hadn't spoken to Coach Q about getting tests or anything, because I was just like, I'm gonna just go see if anything's wrong. I don't want to scare him, So then that Sunday, before I found out on the Tuesday, I had gone out to dinner with a recruit, and on my way home, Coach Q was dropping me back. And I had told him, I was like, oh, Coach, like, I just want you to know, like, I went in for some tests. Like, I'm nervous because of the way the doctors were acting. But I found out on Tuesday. And he was like, okay, like, just call me if you need anything and, like, whatever. So then that Tuesday morning, and I was, like, crying. Like, I was, like, really upset. Like, the Sunday and the Monday, because I just felt bad energy and, like, bad vibes. And I was telling my friend too, like I was telling him like, oh, I just don't feel good. Like I'm really nervous and stuff. And then Tuesday morning, like I get a call and the doctor, it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. And the doctor had said like, I have invasive ductal carcinoma. And at first I was like, what is that? And like, he was like, oh, it's a form of breast cancer. And then like, literally everything else he said, like, I don't even remember. Like, I was just like kind of freaking out and like writing things on like a shoebox because I was just writing everything he was saying down. And then I actually called my best friend. He was in Greece playing basketball. And I called her Miranda, and I was like crying to her, just pretty much saying like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't want to call my parents because it was like late at night there, and I didn't want to call them and tell them, like that's like the worst news. Like my mom had known that I was getting tests though, so she knew that I was gonna find out results soon. But really what was going through my mind was, I think I was in shock more than anything. Even though before I knew that it could be bad, I think I was just shocked that it was actually, I didn't even know how to feel, and so, but then moving forward into so then I ended up calling Coach Q, and I told him I need to come in and see him. And so I went to see him, and I pretty much just told him that the doctor called me this morning and I have breast cancer, and I was crying, and he cried a little bit with me. And then he was like, don't worry, like, we'll help you, like, we'll get you through this. And then we FaceTimed my parents in his office and spoke to my parents about what we want to do, like, moving forward. And he called his doctor straight away. Like, that day, he called probably 4 doctors and got me scheduled in to see a second opinion. He literally did everything, like, for me, and it just makes me so grateful that I came here, you know, like a coach that really, I mean, I'm sure other coaches would have, but he just was amazing throughout it all, was there for me. I could call him on days that I was really upset about stuff that wasn't even to do with basketball, wasn't even to do with me being sick. I was upset about other social things going on in my life, and I knew that I could always call him, and like he would always answer and just like talk me out of being sad. He would like make me feel better. So
And we talked about that just a little bit earlier about, you know, coaches caring about you outside of basketball.
mm-hmm.
One thing I noticed about Coach Q, and I know on the men's side, it's like a big family. Syracuse is a big family, and Coach Q has done an unbelievable job of creating that on the women's side. You know, that same type of culture, that family feel. You see a lot of former, you know, women players coming back and who play for Coach Q, Brittany and Kayla and girls like that. So, like you said, just to be able to have him in your corner, it's huge, right? It's huge. And now what made you, because I read that your parents wanted you to come back and do the treatment over in Australia. So what was the reason for you to stay in Cuse and do it?
Coach Q just wanted me to be here because he knew that I could have the best doctors and the best, I'd be taken care of by the best, you know, doctors. So, and he told them that like he will help us. Like, I don't know, like I wanted to stay here because I wanted to still feel a part of the team. Like, I didn't want to go home and be so disconnected from the team, so that when I come back, like, it's like I'm a brand new player. I wanted to stay here and kind of, yeah, pretty much so I wasn't disconnected from the girls. And he supported my decision, and my parents said, okay, if that's what you want, like, we can come over, like, we'll try to make it over as much as possible. And that's when my brothers and my parents like alternated months of coming to see me.
Yeah, because that, you know, being that far away had to be tough for your family, you know, knowing that you're here going through that.
Yeah, I think the longest time that I was alone was like 12 days in between treatments. And it was so hard. Like, having your family with you when you're going through that, it was like I needed them there. Like, it was just so difficult to be alone during that time, you know. So I definitely needed them there with me.
So talk to me about your mindset. We'll fast forward a little bit when you're going through the treatments. You know, how does your mindset change? Because you're a fighter, you can see it on the court. You know, and you're not going to give up. But how did that change your mindset? And who was really, and you talked about it a little bit, who was really there with you and who really helped you get through that? And, you know, I think I have an idea, but, you know, kind of talk a little bit.
Yeah, so going through the treatments, I kind of was in denial, I would say. So, like, I kind of was in denial that I was sick. I tried to just do everything like I wasn't sick, which is why I continued playing pickup.
Yeah.
I continued to go out with the girls when I could. I couldn't at much because I was so tired. I'd go to sleep at like 9 o'clock and I'd be getting ready and then I'd fall asleep, you know. So, but it was some of the girls that were there for me would be Miranda Drummond, She was there for me a lot, and Emily Engsler,
Yeah.
and Ellamy. Those three girls were there for me tremendously. And Olivia Coyer, who has our SID here.
Yeah.
They went to doctor appointments with me. I would call them, like, I wouldn't want to get out of bed, and I'd call them, and they'd come and like sit with me for like an hour and just talk. So really, like, they just helped me so much. Like, and it's so crazy because you don't realize how much friendships, or like even just people, like, if someone says one thing, you're having a bad day or something, and one person says one thing, like, it could literally ruin your whole week when you're going through stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult to get through, but I would say those four ladies like really helped me and carried me through it.
So during this whole time, you talked about obviously your family and the team supporting you, but you had a lot of support from not only Syracuse but around the nation. You had a lot of support pouring in, and what you were going through was, and how you were handling it was an inspiration to a lot of people, going through the same thing, or they may have had a family member go through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
What did that feel like, knowing you weren't at your best, you didn't feel good going through that, but still at the same time, you were inspiring people across I want to say nation, but the world, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people knew about, what was going on, how did that make you feel? And then give me a story, one story that really kind of sticks out in your head about somebody who reached out to you, a fan, or it could be a random person.
Okay. So that was kind of the reason why I wanted to go public, was because the fans of Syracuse and the support that I had, they were there for me, like when I was on the court, like they would support us and cheer us on, whatever. And like, I just felt like me telling them what I'm going through and sharing that with them it's kind of giving back to them and helping, like, I felt like I wanted to share this experience with them. I felt like I'm a very open person, so I feel like if I was to hide it, and then I'd be bald, and then everyone would just be like thinking things, I was just like, it's better for me to just like get it off my chest and let it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like inspiring other women to push through their fight. Also, I went to a couple of high school games, and I went to, I was messaging people on Instagram that had messaged me, and just like really helping them and motivating them to get through it with a positive attitude, and believing that, I think that's what helped me so much as well, believing that the medicine and the doctors know what they're doing. Like, the medicine's working, the doctors know what they're talking about. Just believing in that and knowing that it's working helped me so much. And then one person who reached out to me that I'll always remember is Holly Rowe. Yeah, so she's like one person who I've always, like, I remember actually seeing her on TV, and like she didn't have much hair and stuff, and like thinking like, oh, I wonder what's wrong, whatever. And then when I ended up getting sick, like I learned so much more about her story, and then she had messaged me on Twitter and Instagram, and pretty much just saying to stay strong, and that if I ever need anything, I can reach out to her. And it's always stuck with me, and her doing that to me, maybe I can help somebody else that is going through something, or I can reach out to them and say, push through, like, you got this, and so that's one person who I feel like her reaching out to me helped me.
And you talked about it just a little second ago, you coming out and letting everybody know, not only got everything off your chest, so to speak, but it helped other people who want to hide it. you know what I mean, who wanted to hide that and didn't feel comfortable letting people know. And then they now, you know, a person of your stature and the platform that you have, and you used it, awesome. You used that platform, awesome, to be able to get it out there and share your story. Now people who are hiding it or feel like, you know, they don't want anybody to know, you know, they're opening up a little bit more and letting people know. And not, you know, through, obviously it's tough to go through what you went through. Obviously, I mean, I have no clue, but to be able to go through what you went through and have that positive mindset and not get down, and like you said, continue to play pickup, continue to go out with the girls. I mean, that shows people, you know, what type of mindset you have to have going through it if you are going through that, and it helped other people, you know, share their stories and come out, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you inspired a whole lot of people just by how you went about it and about the whole process and everything. So, and you inspired me for sure. I mean, you just, you know, just seeing everything that you went through and how you carried yourself and how you are now and what you did. It's unbelievable. And I want to talk about you getting cleared. February 2020, you get cleared, you start to play pickup. You know, what was it like for you coming back? I know obviously it was different. You know, you got to get your win back. You got to get your whole overall feel. So talk to me about coming back and that experience.
Yeah, so that was like February. I got cleared. So I was playing pickup with the girls a lot on campus too, at like the Barnes Center, and it just felt like, I mean, I was so out of shape. Like my lungs, like I would play like one game and be dead. I'd be like, I need to sub, and it's actually funny though, because when I was sick and I'd play pickup, the guys that I'd play with were so good to me, like. Because I could only literally, like, during pickup when I was sick, I could only go up and down probably like maybe 3 times, and I'd get dizzy, and like I feel like I was gonna like faint sometimes. So like the guys would be like, okay, she needs to sub, and then when I felt better, I'd be like, okay, I'm good, and they'd jump off and let me get on. And so yeah, coming back and just playing and being able to actually go up and down like multiple times, like it felt really nice, and it felt like. And then shooting in Mellow on the gun, and just, it felt like, you know, I just wanted to work so hard to come back, because I don't know, I just wanted to be how I used to be.
Yeah.
You know, but after this first game, like, and even leading up to this first game, like, obviously I'm not the same. Like my body has changed a lot, and I'm still on medicine now. Like there's just so many different factors. But yeah, I'm just trying to get back to like how it was.
And you will. I mean, I remember seeing you in the summer coming back, shooting on the shoot machine and playing pickup, and I seen that progression slowly but surely. And we'll talk about the game a few days ago. I mean, you guys get the win, and you're the leading scorer. You know, this is big time college basketball. So for you to come off, you know, you haven't played a game in almost a year and a half. Going through what you went through, fighting through everything, and then to be able to come back in your first game, get a W, and then be the leading scorer, have 8 rebounds, 3 assists, whatever it was. Did you ever have those doubts in your mind that you might not ever be able to do this again?
Yeah, like I never really had the doubt. Like I knew, because you know, you see all those stories like where someone's been like completely out and then they come back and they're like amazing. And so like you see it, so you know that it can happen, right? Like, so in my mind, I didn't doubt myself, because I continued to play throughout treatment. I continued to play, so I knew I still had it in me. But there was doubt about this first game, because I was super, super nervous. I was so anxious. And I am so glad the game's over, because I was literally gonna like have a nervous breakdown, anxiety attack, you know. So, but I never doubted myself that I couldn't do it again. It would just be doing it.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's with a lot of things, right? We always doubt ourselves before we even do anything. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, I can't do that. But then when you do it, you be like, damn, I should have did that a while ago, right?
Right.
Right. You have such a incredible story and message to share to the young girls, and not only about what you went through, but just about how you attacking it right now. You know what I mean? You didn't know what was going to happen, but you're just going to go ahead and do it and find out.
Yeah.
You know? So that's huge on your part. All right, we're going to have a little bit of fun right here. All right, I want you to describe these people to me in a few words, okay? Coach Boeheim, and then give me one of your best Coach Boeheim stories.
Okay, so I would say Boeheim is like real relaxed and chill. The first time I actually, my junior college coaches, they were like, "Oh, you're going to the Cuse, like Boeheim this, Boeheim that," and in Australia we don't know college basketball really. We don't watch that growing up. So when I came here, I didn't really pay attention to it, but to him. But then there was Cuse Awards, and I saw him, and I was like, "Oh, that's who my junior college coaches are talking about." I was like, "Hey, coach, can I get a photo?" So I ended up getting a photo with him, and but after that, I've been to his house many times. He's just super chill, always. I went and watched the NBA finals at his house with a couple of basketball guys, and he would just be there chilling, like relaxed. And yeah, he always say hi to me, super friendly to me.
Coach Q.
Coach Q, he is fashionable. I would say he's a little bougie. He likes his Gucci and Louis Vuitton stuff, but he's super caring and loving. It's hard to see that side of him sometimes because he's so coach mode, but I've seen both sides of him. So I know he can be a bit crazy sometimes and angry and mad at me, but he's super caring and loving too.
Your parents?
My parents, so they're very like helpful people. They're caring and loving, and they always tell me like, that they're proud of me, and that my mom gets emotional all the time. My mom's an emotional person, so like when I was going through it, if she was about to cry, I'd be like, "Mom, you got to leave the room. Like you can't be crying because that's gonna make me cry, and then it's just gonna be a whole mess." So, yeah, I would say they're both just super helpful, loving, caring. Like growing up, we were always at my grandparents' houses, mowing the lawn, like at people's houses, helping people move. Like, yeah.
And I think too, that's like a part of the culture too, a little bit. Like when I was in New Zealand, because your dad is from New Zealand. When I was living there, it was like everything was all good with everybody. I mean, it was really no like, altercation. Obviously, you're gonna have your altercations, but everybody was really friendly, man. And it was like laid back, and I think people always said to me, they'd be like, "Oh, no worries, mate. No worries." It was just, and it was really no worries. Like that was some of the best times of my life, no question being there. So tell me about your favorite moment at Cuse. It could be off the court, your game, practice, whatever it is.
Yeah, so I'd say my favorite moment would be my second year playing in Cancun when I hit the buzzer beater in overtime to win the game.
Coach Q ran all around the court.
Yeah, there was like a meme going around, like when you feel the Holy Ghost or something, like on Twitter, because Coach was running around. But yeah, that was like the best experience. Even just that tournament was just being there and bonding with the girls was so good for our team and chemistry. So I would say that was the best tournament and my favorite game.
And last question, what are your expectations for not only yourself this year, but for the team going forward?
Yeah, for me, I would say it's hard because I want to be how I used to be, but I know my body isn't the same. But really just help my team get a national championship. I don't really care like how we get there or how many points I have or assists I have, but I just really want to win a national championship and I want to get drafted into the WNBA. And so those are two of my all-time goals. And I know that we can. Like I know my team. That was our first game the other day and it was a little rusty, but I know the potential that we have and we have like the best players to be able to win.
Yeah, well, one, for sure you're gonna get drafted to the WNBA. And then two, you guys, I mean, I played with you guys pickup, so I know you guys got some talent. Got an unbelievable freshman big. So you guys definitely could make a run. But T, I appreciate you coming on, man. Like I said before, you inspired many people, including myself. So I appreciate you sharing your story, and I know it's going to help a lot of people out there who listen to this podcast, and continue success. And I'm cheering for you all the time.
Thanks so much, E. I appreciate it.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this podcast with Tiana. It was a great interview. Make sure you guys tune in and subscribe, and also leave a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever else you guys can get your podcasts.